Some sentences don't end a marriage in the exact moment they are spoken. They simply, silently kill the very last thing left inside a man's heart. That evening started like hundreds of others. The wall clock in the kitchen had just struck 7. The scent of roasted meat and rosemary still hung in the air. The steady clinking of silverware against porcelain plates echoed between broken conversations about work, school, and late summer vacations. Warm golden light cast down on the oak table, the one I had hand-polished nearly 10 years ago. Everything looked so peaceful that if anyone stood outside looking through the window, they would have thought this was a picture-perfect suburban American family. My name is Ethan Walker, 42 years old, born and raised in Columbus, Ohio. I work as an operations manager for a company that maintains commercial buildings. My job isn't glamorous. It's like the HVAC system in a skyscraper. Nobody notices it when everything works normally. It's only when it stops running that people realize how important it truly is. I used to think marriage was the exact same way. 16 years beside Emily taught me that not every form of love needs to be spoken out loud. Some men simply wake up 30 minutes earlier than everyone else to brew coffee, check their kids' school schedules, take out the trash on collection days, change the air filters before summer arrives, and remember their mother-in-law's birthday without needing a reminder. I never considered those things a sacrifice. It was just how I loved my family. But as it turned out, the more silent something is, the easier it is to be treated as if it never existed at all. Emily sat across from me. Her cream-colored knit dress made her look younger than her 40 years. Her blonde hair was tied back neatly, a few loose strands falling softly along her cheeks. She was still the woman who made me turn my head every time she walked into a room. It was just that for many years now, that gaze was no longer returned. My 15-year-old daughter, Ava, was giggling over a video on her phone. My 12-year-old son, Mason, was trying to tell a story about school between bites, making the whole table burst into laughter. Emily laughed too. That laughter used to be my favorite sound in the world. Then she turned to me, just a quick glance, a half smile. "Honestly," she said, lifting her glass as if about to tell a funny story. "Nobody would notice if you left. Nobody would notice if you left." There was a silence so brief that an outsider wouldn't have even registered it. Then Ava laughed first. "Mom," Emily shrugged. "I mean, come on. Dad's so quiet. Half the time I forget he's even in the room." Mason burst out laughing along with his sister. Emily's laugh grew louder too. Not a forced laugh to cover a mistake, a real laugh. The laugh of someone who genuinely believed she had just said something hilarious. I looked down at the fork in my hand. The piece of beef remained untouched on my plate. For some reason, my eyes locked onto a tiny scratch on the tabletop, right where the edge had been bumped by a chair years ago. I remembered intending to refinish the stain there, but I had been too busy and forgot. Humans are strange creatures. When the heart takes a direct hit, the brain clings to meaningless details just to keep you from collapsing. Emily was still talking to the kids about something. I couldn't hear it clearly anymore. There was only the hum of the air conditioner running overhead and the ticking of the clock behind my back. No one apologized. No one looked my way. No one thought those words could cut a person deep. I cut another piece of meat, raised it to my mouth, and chewed slowly. I didn't get angry. I didn't slam the table. I didn't stand up. I didn't argue. 20 years of working with multi-million-dollar structural systems taught me a very simple lesson. When you discover a structural crack in a building, the worst thing you can do is jump on it and scream. You step back, you observe, you evaluate, and then you decide whether the structure is still worth saving. That evening, for the first time in my life, I looked at my marriage through those exact eyes. I smiled very faintly. "Pass me the salt, please." Emily pushed the salt shaker toward me without even looking up. That was the last thing we said to each other during dinner. And it was also the moment I stopped trying to prove that I belonged inside the very house I had built. People think a house stands because of walls, a roof, or a mortgage payment. It doesn't. A home stands because of hundreds of invisible routines performed by someone nobody bothers to thank. I used to believe that was enough. The morning after Emily told me nobody would notice if I left, I woke up at exactly 5:12 a.m., just like I had every weekday for the past 14 years. The habit was so deeply wired into me that my eyes opened before the alarm vibrated on the nightstand. The room was still dark, wrapped in the pale blue light that comes just before sunrise. Emily slept on her side of the bed, facing the window, breathing slowly, completely unaware that something irreversible had shifted inside me less than 10 hours earlier. I lay there for another minute. Not angry, not heartbroken, just quiet. Real silence isn't the absence of sound. It's the moment your mind stops arguing with reality. I slipped out of bed without waking her, pulled on an old gray sweatshirt, and walked downstairs. The coffee maker clicked on at precisely 5:20. It always did. I'd programmed it years ago because Emily liked waking up to the smell of fresh coffee. She once told me it made the house feel loved. Funny how memories survive longer than feelings. Steam curled into the kitchen while I opened the family calendar hanging beside the refrigerator. Every square was filled with my handwriting. Ava's orthodontist appointment. Mason's science project deadline. Emily's client dinner on Thursday. Trash pickup. HVAC inspection. Dog medication refill. The handwriting looked ordinary. So did the calendar. Nobody ever noticed who kept it updated. I poured 2 cups of coffee. One black for me, one with almond milk, and exactly 1 packet of raw sugar for Emily. By instinct, I reached for the sugar. Then my hand stopped halfway. For a long moment, I simply stared at the packet between my fingers. Then I quietly placed it back in the cabinet. She could do it herself. It was such a tiny decision, almost laughably small. But sometimes a life changes one ordinary habit at a time. Outside, the Ohio air carried the cool scent of damp grass. I stepped onto the back porch with my mug, listening to sprinklers hiss across neighboring lawns. Across the street, old Mr. Patterson was already walking his Labrador. He waved. "Morning, Ethan." "Morning." Same exchange, same smile, same quiet man everyone assumed lived an uncomplicated life. If only they knew how many moving parts existed behind that silence. By 6 o'clock, I had already checked the circuit breaker after last night's storm, tightened the loose hinge on the garage door, transferred money to the joint account for next week's mortgage payment, and confirmed Mason's field trip permission form had been submitted online. No one had asked me to. No one even knew these things needed doing. That's the strange thing about responsibility. When it's done well, it becomes invisible. Emily finally came downstairs around 6:45, scrolling through emails before she'd even reached the kitchen. She opened the coffee pot, poured herself a cup, paused. "Did we run out of sugar?" I looked up from the newspaper. "It's in the cabinet." She opened the wrong one first, then another, then found it exactly where it had always been. Oh, that was all she said. No thank you. No realization. Just another routine she assumed had always managed itself. Ava rushed downstairs 5 minutes later, earbuds already in. "Mom, where's my blue hoodie?" Emily answered without looking. "Ask your father." For years, I would have known, because I was the one who washed it, folded it, and remembered she left it in the dryer. This time, I simply shrugged. "I don't know." She blinked. "You don't?" "No." She frowned, genuinely surprised, before running upstairs to search herself. It lasted maybe 30 seconds. Then life continued. Nobody noticed. Not yet. That morning, I drove to work like always. Traffic crawled along Interstate 70 beneath a gray October sky. Pickup trucks, delivery vans, commuters with paper cups balanced between their knees, all moving toward another ordinary day. On the surface, mine looked no different. Inside, however, I had already made a decision. I wasn't going to argue with Emily. I wasn't going to defend my worth. I wasn't going to make speeches hoping someone would finally see me. People only value what they believe they can lose. And for 16 years, I'd made absolutely certain my family never had to imagine life without me. Maybe it was finally time they did. The cruelest words are rarely the loudest. More often, they're the ones repeated so casually that everyone else mistakes them for jokes. Looking back now, I realize Emily's comment at the dinner table wasn't the beginning. It was the conclusion. The truth is, nobody wakes up one morning and decides to stop respecting the person they married. It happens slowly, almost politely, through 1,000 tiny moments that seem too insignificant to remember until they form a pattern you can no longer ignore. I remembered one Saturday the previous spring. Emily was hosting brunch for 3 of her friends from the marketing firm. They filled the dining room with laughter, expensive perfume, and conversations about promotions, vacations, and kitchen renovations. I had spent the entire morning getting the house ready. I vacuumed every room, trimmed the backyard, picked up fresh pastries from the bakery Emily liked, even arranged flowers on the dining table because she once mentioned that tulips made the room feel more welcoming. By the time her friends arrived, everything looked effortless, which meant I had done my job well. I stayed in the kitchen while they talked. Every now and then I'd refill coffee cups or bring out another plate of fruit. One of her friends smiled at me. "Ethan, you're incredible. Emily's lucky." Before I could answer, Emily laughed. "Oh, don't give him too much credit. He's basically my live-in maintenance guy." The table erupted in laughter. I smiled politely. Someone asked if she was joking. She shrugged. Honestly, if I didn't make him lists, he'd probably spend all day reorganizing the garage. More laughter. I carried the empty plates back into the kitchen. Nobody followed. Nobody noticed I'd stopped smiling. At work, I managed teams responsible for maintaining office towers worth millions of dollars. At home, I had somehow become the punchline. Then there was Father's Day. Ava had made handmade cards for every teacher she liked that year. She bought a birthday gift for her soccer coach. When Father's Day arrived, she hugged me quickly before running upstairs to get ready for a friend's pool party. "Oh," she paused halfway up the stairs. "I forgot." Emily looked up from her phone. "We'll celebrate next weekend." We never did. It wasn't malicious. That almost made it worse. People don't accidentally forget someone they truly think about. They forget what's always there. Like electricity, like clean water, like the man quietly replacing the batteries in every smoke detector before anyone notices they're dying. Even Mason had started copying little things. One evening I asked him to put his plate in the dishwasher. He sighed dramatically. "Dad, can't you just do it? You're better at that stuff." He wasn't trying to hurt me. He was 12. Children imitate the culture they grow up inside. Emily didn't correct him. She just kept scrolling through her phone. The silence that followed taught him more than any lecture ever could. I wish I could tell you I confronted her, that I demanded respect, that I stood in the middle of the living room and finally spoke my mind. I didn't. Not because I was weak, because I genuinely believe people who love each other eventually notice these things on their own. I thought kindness was contagious. Instead, it became expected. The more dependable I became, the less visible I appeared. I remembered fixing the leaking faucet at midnight so Emily wouldn't wake up to dripping water, replacing her flat tire during a snowstorm while she stayed warm inside the car, driving 3 hours after work to pick up Ava from a debate competition because the school bus broke down, missing fishing trips with old friends because Mason had baseball practice, canceling a promotion interview that required relocating because Emily loved this neighborhood. None of those choices felt like sacrifices when I made them. They felt like love. But love has a dangerous habit. If it asks for nothing in return, eventually people assume it costs nothing to give. That realization followed me everywhere after the dinner conversation. I began noticing things I had ignored for years. Emily saying, "Can you?" instead of "Would you?" The children assuming I'd handle every inconvenience before they even asked. Neighbors calling me, not because they cared how I was doing, but because I always knew how to solve a problem. Somewhere along the way, I had become everyone's emergency contact, no one's priority. That evening, I sat alone in the garage after everyone had gone to bed. The overhead light buzzed softly while I stared at the shelves I'd organized with labeled storage bins, spare house keys, warranty folders, paint samples, and neatly coiled extension cords. Everything had a place. Everything except me. For the first time, I stopped asking myself how to fix my family. Instead, I asked a question I'd been avoiding for years. What would happen if I simply stopped holding everything together? Once you stop trying to be seen, you begin to notice everything with startling clarity. The decision wasn't dramatic. There was no shouting, no slammed doors, no packed suitcase sitting by the front entrance. If someone had watched me during the next few days, they would have sworn nothing had changed. I still went to work, still mowed the lawn, still asked Mason about baseball practice, still wished Ava good luck before her chemistry test, still smiled whenever Emily looked in my direction. The difference was invisible. I had stopped fixing things before anyone noticed they were broken. That Monday evening, I arrived home just before 6. Emily was in the living room answering emails with the television humming in the background. Mason was upstairs. Ava had gone to a friend's house. Normally, before taking off my jacket, I would check the mailbox, sort the bills into separate folders, pay anything due within 48 hours, and update the spreadsheet I had quietly maintained for almost a decade. Instead, I placed the unopened stack of envelopes neatly on the kitchen counter, exactly where anyone could see them. I walked away. 10 minutes later, Emily wandered into the kitchen. She glanced at the pile. Did the mail come? Yeah. She nodded. That was it. She assumed someone else would deal with it. Or, rather, she assumed I eventually would. The next morning, I noticed the low fuel warning light on Emily's SUV. Normally, I'd fill her tank on my way home because she hated stopping at gas stations after dark. This time I simply made a mental note. Nothing more. At breakfast, she grabbed her keys, kissed the kids on the forehead, and hurried toward the garage. Have a good day, I called. You too. She drove away. I watched the red taillights disappear around the corner. I wondered how many things in our marriage survived purely because I anticipated problems before they ever reached her. Probably more than either of us realized. At work, my phone buzzed around lunchtime. Emily. I answered. My gas light came on. I figured it might. A brief silence. I thought you usually filled it. I've been busy. Another pause. Okay. She sounded confused, not upset, as though reality had failed to follow its usual script. When the call ended, I slipped the phone back into my pocket and stared out the office window. For years, I'd believed love meant making life easier for the people you cared about. Maybe it did, but somewhere along the way, I had crossed an invisible line. Helping had quietly become enabling. Responsibility had become expectation. Expectation had become entitlement. That evening, I opened the utility cabinet in the garage. Every binder sat perfectly aligned. House insurance, vehicle maintenance, medical records, emergency contacts, home warranties, passwords, instruction manuals. I had created the system years earlier because I wanted my family to be prepared for anything. I pulled out a small black notebook. Inside were pages of handwritten reminders accumulated over 16 years. The plumber who gave us honest prices. The pediatrician Mason trusted. The exact furnace filter size. The code to reset the sprinkler controller after a power outage. The anniversary dates Emily's parents never remembered themselves. The flower shop that always delivered to her office before 9 in the morning. Tiny details. Thousands of them. Each one insignificant on its own. Together, they formed the invisible architecture of our lives. I ran my fingers across the worn leather cover. Then I placed it back on the shelf. Not hidden, not destroyed, simply left where it belonged. If anyone ever wanted to understand how our family functioned, the answers had always been there. No one had ever bothered to ask. Over the next several days, I began quietly preparing for a future that no one else could see. I opened a checking account in my name alone. Not because I intended to punish Emily, because every adult should be capable of standing on his own feet. I rented a small storage unit across town. One box at a time, I placed inside it things that actually mattered to me. My father's toolbox, old family photographs, the fishing rod my grandfather had given me when I was 13, a few books I'd read so many times the pages had begun to yellow. Nothing Emily would immediately notice missing. Nothing that would start a fight. Every trip took less than 20 minutes. Every return looked completely ordinary. One Friday night, Emily looked up from the couch. You've been awfully quiet lately. I smiled. I've just been thinking. She accepted the answer without another question. 16 years together, and she didn't ask what I was thinking about. That hurt more than the insult at the dinner table. Because indifference is quieter than cruelty, and far more dangerous. Late that night, after everyone was asleep, I stood alone in the hallway outside our bedrooms. The house was peaceful, safe, comfortable. Every board beneath my feet, every repaired hinge, every freshly painted wall carried fingerprints no one could see anymore. I rested my hand on the front doorknob. Not to leave. Not yet. Just to feel how easy it would be when the time finally came. The night I finally left, there were no raised voices. No dramatic goodbye. No one stood in the doorway begging me to stay. Real endings rarely sound the way movies teach us they should. They sound like a dishwasher finishing its cycle, a dryer humming in the laundry room, the soft click of a bedroom door closing upstairs. It was a Thursday. October had settled over Ohio, and the air carried that familiar chill that always arrived just after sunset. The maple tree in our front yard had already begun dropping crimson leaves across the driveway. I remember staring at them through the kitchen window while rinsing the last dinner plate. Emily was upstairs on a video call with a client. Ava was finishing homework. Mason was playing an online game with his friends, laughing through his headset. The house felt perfectly ordinary. I dried my hands with the kitchen towel and folded it neatly over the oven handle. For years, I had ended every evening with the same quiet routine. I checked that every exterior door was locked, made sure the garage was closed, set the coffee maker for the morning, adjusted the thermostat by 2 degrees, placed the dog's medication beside his food bowl, reviewed tomorrow's family calendar one final time. That night, I completed every one of those tasks. Not because I planned to return, because I wanted my last evening in that house to reflect the man I had always been. Responsible, steady, quiet. I walked into my small home office and opened the bottom drawer of my desk. Inside sat a plain white envelope. It contained only a single sheet of paper. No accusations, no list of sacrifices, no attempt to make anyone feel guilty. I had rewritten the note 3 times before realizing fewer words carried more weight. In the end, I wrote only one sentence. You said nobody would notice if I left. Below it, I signed my name. Nothing else. I placed the envelope in the center of the kitchen island, where Emily always set her purse every morning before leaving for work. She wouldn't be able to miss it. I hoped. My overnight bag was already waiting in the trunk of my car. Not a suitcase. Just enough clothes for a few days, a laptop, important documents, and the old leather wallet my father had given me on my 21st birthday. Everything else could stay behind. Furniture can be replaced. Televisions can be replaced. Even houses can be replaced. Peace of mind cannot. Before walking out, I climbed the stairs one last time. Ava's bedroom door was slightly open. She had fallen asleep with a chemistry textbook resting across her chest. I gently removed it and placed it on her nightstand. She didn't wake. Across the hall, Mason's room glowed faintly from his computer monitor. His headset had slipped onto the pillow beside him. He looked younger when he slept, almost like the little boy who used to wait by the front window every evening just to see my truck pull into the driveway. I quietly switched off the monitor. He murmured something unintelligible and rolled onto his side. Then I stood outside my own bedroom. Emily's voice drifted through the half-open door. She was laughing. Not at me. Not about me. Just laughing. For a moment, I almost walked inside. I almost convinced myself that marriages survive difficult seasons, that tomorrow could still be different. Then I remembered the dinner table, the laughter, the sentence that had echoed in my mind every day since. Nobody would notice if you left. I realized something then. Leaving wasn't an act of revenge. It was the first honest response I had given in years. I pulled the front door closed behind me with barely a sound. The porch light switched on automatically as I stepped outside. Motion sensor. I had installed it myself after Emily once said she felt unsafe coming home late from work. The light followed me all the way to the driveway. I placed my overnight bag in the passenger seat, started the engine. The dashboard clock read 11:43 p.m. For several seconds, I simply sat there. The house stood quietly behind me. Warm lights glowed through the windows. From the outside, it still looked like a happy family home. Maybe every broken home looks that way until someone finally walks away. I shifted the car into reverse. The tires rolled slowly over the blanket of fallen maple leaves. No one opened the front door. No one looked through the curtains. No one noticed. As the neighborhood disappeared in my rearview mirror, I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel angry. I felt strangely weightless. For the first time in 16 years, tomorrow no longer depended on me. And somewhere behind me, in a house that still believed everything would function exactly as it always had, a single white envelope waited silently for the morning. People often imagine that absence announces itself immediately. It doesn't. At first, it wears the disguise of routine. I spent my first night in a small extended-stay hotel 20 miles from home. The room wasn't luxurious. A queen-sized bed, a worn leather chair by the window, a tiny kitchenette with a humming refrigerator. It smelled faintly of fresh paint and coffee. For the first time in years, every object in the room belonged to no one who expected anything from me. I slept for nearly 9 uninterrupted hours. No alarm, no mental checklist, no wondering whether I had forgotten to sign a permission slip or schedule a repair appointment. Just silence, real silence. I woke to sunlight pouring through the curtains and realized something that almost made me laugh. I couldn't remember the last morning I'd awakened because my body was rested instead of because someone else needed me. Back at the house, however, another kind of morning was unfolding. I know exactly how it happened because Emily told me later. She came downstairs a little after 7, balancing her coffee mug and laptop. She noticed the envelope immediately. At first, she assumed it was another utility bill I'd left on the counter. Then she saw her name, Emily. Only that. She opened it while waiting for the coffee maker to finish brewing. One sentence. You said nobody would notice if I left. My signature underneath. Nothing more. No explanation. No destination. No accusation. She frowned. According to her, she actually smiled at first. She thought I had gone to work unusually early and was trying to make some strange point. She called upstairs. Ethan. No answer. She checked the garage. My truck was gone. She looked at the bedroom. Half my closet was empty. The dresser drawer where I kept my everyday clothes stood open. Only then did the smile disappear. She called my phone. I watched it vibrate on the hotel nightstand. Emily. For 16 years, I answered almost every call before the second ring. This time, I let it go to voicemail. She called again, and again. By the fourth attempt, Ava had come downstairs. What's wrong? I can't find your father. Ava laughed. He's probably at work. I don't think so. The certainty in Emily's voice made the room suddenly feel different. They checked the garage, the basement, my office, even the backyard, as though I might somehow be hiding behind the shed. Mason wandered downstairs, rubbing sleep from his eyes. Where's Dad? Emily held up the note. I don't know. For the first time in years, nobody in that house knew what came next. At exactly 7:45, the first small problem arrived. The coffee maker flashed an error code. Normally, I cleaned the mineral buildup every month. No one else even knew it needed maintenance. Emily stared at the blinking display. I'll deal with it later. 5 minutes after that, Mason remembered he needed poster board for a school presentation. Dad usually buys that. Emily searched the supply closet. Nothing, because I normally restocked it every Sunday. At 8:10, Ava asked where her debate registration paperwork was. I thought Dad printed it. He had, but she didn't know I'd placed it inside the blue folder in the hall cabinet. She searched 3 rooms before finally finding it. Each inconvenience lasted only a few minutes. Individually, they meant almost nothing. Together, they created something unfamiliar. Friction. The house had always run like a well-built machine. That morning, every gear seemed to hesitate. Around noon, Emily called my office. When they told her I'd taken personal leave beginning that day, she reportedly sat in silence for several seconds before thanking the receptionist. Personal leave? She didn't know I had vacation time saved. She'd never asked. By early afternoon, my voicemail held 12 missed calls. Emily. Ava. Emily again. Then 2 text messages. Where are you? Please answer. I read them, then placed the phone face down on the table. Not to punish anyone, to give them the one thing they had never experienced. Life without immediately reaching me. As evenings settled over the city, I walked through a nearby park with a paper cup of coffee in my hands. Children played on swings. Dogs chased tennis balls. An elderly couple sat quietly feeding ducks beside the pond. No one there knew my story. No one expected me to fix anything. For the first time in a very long while, I was simply another man watching the sunset. Back at the house, Emily would later admit. She stood alone in the kitchen after the children had gone to bed. She looked around the room. The unopened mail, the calendar, the coffee maker, the quiet. And for the first time since speaking those careless words at the dinner table, she noticed exactly who wasn't there. It took less than 48 hours for my family to discover something I had spent 16 years trying to prevent. Life doesn't collapse because one person leaves. It unravels because no one ever realized how many threads that person was holding. On the second morning after I left, my phone buzzed before sunrise. Not with another missed call. With a voicemail. I almost deleted it without listening. Instead, I pressed play. Emily's voice sounded different. Not angry. Not demanding. Just tired. Ethan, I don't know where you are. I need you to call me. The furnace isn't turning on. Mason forgot his lunch. Ava missed her ride because we couldn't find her schedule, and I know those things sound stupid. They probably are. Just, please call. She stopped speaking. For several seconds, there was only silence. Then the message ended. I stared at the phone for a long time. Those weren't emergencies. They were simply the first cracks appearing after the foundation disappeared. I didn't call back. Instead, I drove to a small diner a few miles from the hotel. The waitress poured coffee into my mug and smiled. Just one today? Just one. No one there knew I was someone's husband, someone's father, someone's invisible support system. I was simply another customer eating scrambled eggs by the window. Oddly enough, that felt peaceful. Later that afternoon, my sister Claire called. She was the only person I'd told where I was staying. "You should know," she said carefully. "Emily came by my house." I leaned back in my chair. What did she want? She thought maybe you were here. And I told her you were safe. I appreciated that. She looked shaken. "Ethan." I closed my eyes. Claire continued quietly. "She kept asking me why you didn't tell her you were unhappy." I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because I had spent years trying. Not with speeches. With exhaustion. With silence. With little requests for help. With moments when I simply wanted someone to ask, "Are you okay?" People often think communication only happens through words. Sometimes it happens through the things a person quietly stops saying. Sometimes it happens through the smile that disappears. Through the conversations that become shorter. Through a husband who gradually becomes less present inside his own home. Emily hadn't noticed any of it. Until the house became too quiet. Claire sighed. She cried. That sentence hit me harder than I expected. Not because I wanted revenge. Because I had loved that woman for 16 years. Hearing she was hurting didn't bring satisfaction. Only sadness. That evening, something happened at the house that finally changed everything. Mason had baseball practice. Emily rushed from work, picked him up late, and drove across town through heavy traffic. Halfway there, he quietly asked, "Mom, what? Did Dad leave because of us?" Emily later admitted she almost drove through a red light. She pulled into a parking lot instead, turned off the engine, looked at her son. "No, but he left." She couldn't answer. Mason stared out the window. "I never said thank you when he stayed after school to help me practice pitching." His voice cracked. "I thought he'd always be there." Children often understand loss before they understand pride. That night, Ava found the family calendar hanging in the kitchen. For the first time, she really looked at it. Every appointment, every reminder, every birthday, every deadline, every colored note, all written in my handwriting. She walked into the garage, searching for more answers. That's when she discovered the black notebook, the one I had carefully returned to the shelf. She opened it. Inside were pages filled with details about their lives. Mason's allergy medication, Ava's favorite study snacks before exams, Emily's preferred florist, emergency contacts, home maintenance schedules, passwords, medical information, things no one had ever thought to ask about because they had simply existed. Ava reportedly sat on the garage floor reading page after page. When Emily found her, she was crying. "Mom." She held up the notebook. Dad remembered everything. Emily took it from her with trembling hands. She turned each page more slowly than the last. Every handwritten note became another reminder of all the invisible love she had mistaken for ordinary routine. That night, after the children had gone to bed, Emily walked into my empty closet. She ran her hand across the wooden hanger rod where my shirts had once been. For the first time since I had driven away, she finally stopped asking herself where I had gone. Instead, she began asking herself who I had been all those years while she was too busy to truly see me. Distance has a strange way of removing noise. When you're no longer fighting to be heard, you finally hear the truth. It had been 6 days since I left. By then, the missed calls had stopped coming every hour. Not because Emily had given up, because she had realized that if I was ever going to answer, it would be when I was ready, not when she demanded it. Late Saturday afternoon, my phone vibrated once. Just once. A text message. It wasn't from Emily. It was from Ava. "Dad, I'm sorry." Nothing else. No explanation. No excuses. Just 3 words that weighed more than every missed call combined. I stared at the screen until it went dark. Then another message appeared. "I found your notebook." A few minutes later, another. "I didn't know you remembered all those things." For the first time since leaving, tears reached my eyes. Not because she finally understood what I had done, because she finally understood why I had done it. That evening, there was another message. This time from Mason. "Dad, Coach asked where you were today." He had attached a picture. An empty folding chair beside the baseball field. The chair where I had sat through every game for the past 7 years. I looked at the photograph for a long time. Then I quietly whispered into the empty room. "I'm sorry, buddy." Leaving had never meant leaving my children. It meant leaving the version of myself that had disappeared inside that house. The following morning, there was a knock on my hotel room door. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened it, Claire stood there holding 2 paper coffee cups. I figured you'd forgotten what real coffee tastes like. I smiled for the first time in days. She stepped inside without asking questions. We sat by the window watching people cross the parking lot. Finally, she spoke. They're different. I knew exactly who she meant. How? Ava made breakfast yesterday. I blinked. Mason did the dishes. I stayed silent. And Emily? Claire hesitated. I've never seen her look at someone else's work before. What do you mean? She walked through every room in that house. Claire stared into her coffee. She kept stopping. In the laundry room. In the garage. By the breaker panel. The sprinkler controls. The garden. She just stood there, remembering. Apparently, she had begun seeing my fingerprints everywhere. Not literal fingerprints. Evidence. The repaired cabinet door. The patched fence. The picture frames hung perfectly level. The loose stair that no longer creaked. The winter emergency kits stored in both vehicles. The labels inside every storage bin. For 16 years, those things had blended into the background. Now each one quietly asked the same question. Who loved you enough to think about this before you ever had to? Claire reached into her purse. I wasn't sure if I should give this to you. She handed me a folded piece of paper. It wasn't from Emily. It was written in Ava's handwriting. Dad, I keep thinking about that night at dinner. I laughed. I don't even know why. It wasn't funny. I think I laughed because everyone else did. I wish I could take it back. When you used to wait up until I got home from school trips, I thought all dads did that. When my phone died, you always knew where to find me. When I forgot projects, they somehow appeared. I never asked how. Now I know. You were paying attention even when I wasn't. I noticed. Just too late. I folded the letter carefully. Too late. Those 2 words echoed inside me. Maybe they were true. Maybe they weren't. I honestly didn't know anymore. That afternoon, I finally did something I hadn't done since leaving. I called home. Emily answered before the second ring. Ethan. Her voice broke on my name. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, I said, How are the kids? She cried quietly before answering. They miss you. I miss them too. Another silence. Then she whispered something I had waited years to hear. I never realized how alone you were while you were standing beside me. I closed my eyes. The words didn't erase the past. They couldn't. Some wounds heal slowly because they were created slowly. I'm not calling because I'm ready to come home, I said gently. I know. I'm calling because I needed to hear your voice. I know. And because the kids deserve to know I love them. They never doubted that. When the call ended, I remained seated by the window long after the screen went dark. Outside, autumn leaves drifted across the sidewalk, carried wherever the wind decided. For the first time since I walked away, I wasn't thinking about whether I had made the right decision. I was thinking about a different question. Not whether my family had finally noticed I was gone, but whether, if I ever returned, they would truly see me. People often ask whether I went back. They expect the answer to be dramatic. Either I walked through the front door and everything magically became perfect, or I never looked back. Real life offered neither ending. 3 days after my conversation with Emily, I agreed to meet my family. Not at the house, not in a lawyer's office, at a quiet park halfway between the hotel and home. The same park where I had spent so many evenings walking alone after I left. I arrived early. Old habits. The October wind carried the scent of fallen leaves across the empty picnic tables. Children laughed somewhere in the distance. For several minutes, I simply watched the lake. Then I heard footsteps behind me. Dad. I turned. Before I could say a word, Ava was already hugging me. She cried without trying to hide it. I'm so sorry. I wrapped my arms around her. You don't have to carry this by yourself. I laughed. I know. I didn't mean it. I know. Sometimes forgiveness begins before explanations ever do. A second later, Mason stepped forward. He wasn't a child who cried easily. Instead, he held out a baseball. Coach said, maybe we could still practice sometime. I smiled through the lump in my throat. I'd like that. He nodded once before hugging me so tightly I could barely breathe. Then I saw Emily. She stood several feet away, uncertain whether she even deserved to come closer. She looked exhausted, not because she hadn't been sleeping, because regret has a way of aging people. For a long moment, neither of us moved. Finally, she walked toward me. I don't expect you to forgive me today. I stayed silent. I don't expect you to come home. Another pause. I just need you to know something. She took a slow breath. I spent 16 years believing love was whatever stayed after everything else was taken care of. Her voice trembled. I never realized. She looked directly into my eyes. You were the one taking care of everything. There was no defense, no excuses, no attempt to blame stress, work, or misunderstanding. Only responsibility. That mattered. I can't change what I said, she whispered. No, I can't undo how invisible I made you feel. No, but if you ever give me another chance. She stopped. I promise I won't love what you do for us. A tear slipped down her cheek. I'll love you. For the first time since leaving, I believe she truly understood the difference. We walked together through the park for nearly 2 hours. No shouting, no arguing over old memories. Just honest conversations we should have had years earlier. I admitted how lonely I had become. Emily admitted how easily gratitude had been replaced by expectation. Ava confessed she had copied her mother's attitude without realizing it. Mason promised he would never again assume someone would always be there simply because they always had been. Healing didn't happen that afternoon. Healing began. There is a difference. I didn't move back into the house that night or the next week. Trust, once broken, deserves time to grow honestly instead of being forced. Instead, I visited often. Dinner on Tuesdays, baseball practice on Thursdays, family breakfast every Sunday morning. Something unexpected happened during those weeks. Everyone participated. Mason learned how to prepare school lunches. Ava managed her own calendar. Emily paid the bills with me sitting beside her, not because she couldn't learn, but because she wanted to understand the life I had quietly carried alone. The invisible work became visible, not just the chores, the thought behind them. Months later, I carried my last overnight bag back through the front door. This time, no one expected me to unpack alone. Mason grabbed my toolbox. Ava carried my books. Emily took my clothes upstairs. She smiled. Welcome home. For the first time in years, those words felt true. Sometimes people ask whether one sentence really changed our marriage. The answer is no. One sentence revealed what had already been breaking for years. What changed us wasn't my leaving. It was what everyone finally learned after I was gone. Love is not measured by grand speeches. It is measured by the countless quiet things someone does every single day without asking for applause. If you are fortunate enough to have someone like that in your life, don't wait until their side of the closet is empty. Don't wait until the house grows strangely quiet. Don't wait until all that remains is a notebook filled with invisible acts of love. Notice them now, because the greatest tragedy isn't losing someone who mattered. It's realizing how much they mattered only after they stopped carrying the weight you never even knew they were holding.